Hello, the internet.
Greetings, the world,
My name is Esmeralda,
and I'm Matthew.
and we would like to share with you guys a little bit about traveling together and tips that we have found that make that work better.
Make it a little easier
Yeah,
because we've been traveling together now for 5 months
yeah, since last December.
since last December through India, south of India,
And Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka, and now Thailand.
Yes, greetings from Thailand.
So here we are in Chiang Mai.
Um,
Here's Thailand cat.
yes, we've met a plethora of gorgeous animals along the way. That's for damn sure.
Tip number 1.
Tip number 1, find animals.
Wanting to do a podcast for a while is one place to start, in that I think having shared projects and things has been quite a useful thing of our time traveling, right?
Absolutely, yeah. We're lucky in that we have a lot of interests that we share. So, dance and acro yoga and
Animals.
and green juice. But
Green juice.
it's a big one. Let's be real. It's a
It's
big
huge.
part of our day. Bye,
Oh,
cat.
Bye, cat.
Thanks for being here.
But yeah, I mean, I really noticed the difference when we're doing acro yoga. Sometimes yoga. We actually came here to do a yoga class, but no one showed up. So yoga. I definitely noticed the difference when we're doing those things together. That it's like channeling our energy towards something creative, and the less we have those things going on, that energy can go more into like, that thing that you're doing that's sort of bothering me. Or I guess there's a part of the human spirit which wants challenges to overcome. So it's a sort of creative idea to have those challenges chosen rather than just
Whatever life chucks at you.
yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. I've definitely noticed as well, if we're particularly working on something like acro, where communication is really key, I noticed that the kind communication that we build with our movement practice spills out all over everything else that we're doing. So that
Right.
trust and the teamwork and like those moments of simplicity there, they really definitely shine out in the rest of our lives together, which is really cool.
Yeah, really true. The other thing that springs up for me is separate interests as well.
Absolutely.
Having
And
that going on.
Tip number 2,
Tip number 2,
be individuals.
because I think when we were planning and when we started traveling, I definitely had this idea of like, oh well, we could get up and we could meditate together, and then we can move together, and then we can go to breakfast together, and then we can like work on our projects together in the same room.
And then we'll have sex, and then we'll like eat a big, really nice big salad together, and like.
And that's kind of great, like a lot of that's really great, but there was definitely a point that came where I was like, I could feel like actually like where do I end and you begin? And as lovely as it is and as easy as it is to kind of follow that compulsion of doing
Two-headed
everything
monster.
together. Oh, bird. Nice. Yeah, like actually, like there really came a time when we were in Arambol in Goa, particularly, when I was like, actually, like when I think for me the thing I recognised was the Wim Hof breathing in the morning. That we started sort of doing that together, I think, all the time, and actually there came a point for me when sometimes I'd wake up and I would just be like, actually, kind of right now as I wake up and come back into the world, I feel like having my own space, at least at the beginning of the day. So to, even sometimes when it's things that we share, be it meditation or Wim Hof breathing.
Or movement. We went to
Yeah.
some solo dances together. Like we both went to the dance, but we didn't dance
Ignored each
together.
other. Had a little customary hello.
Yeah, like a, you know,
So yeah,
hi, how are you?
so like tuning into those moments and actually like honouring that part of us that feels like actually like, yeah, I need and want to do my own thing right now, and that's really important, and it's not like a negative comment on the state of our relationship in any way. I actually think it's a really positive thing to then be like, go and fill up and remember who I am, and then bring that back into connection.
Absolutely. I think it brings to mind a quote you sent me recently of like, in order to have a like a healthy adult relationship, you need two healthy adults. So, um, and in that, there's definitely that implication of separate individuals, because I think a big part of what we do together is we really want to feel like we're choosing this life, we're choosing being together, we're choosing each other, and it's very difficult to tune into your own choice if you don't have your own space, and if you don't come back to yourself every once in a while.
So important. The other part of that is it can, especially when we first really started trying to do that and take space, like we try and do a thing where we have at least one day a week where we are separate, we don't see each other, we sleep in separate beds, and it's definitely happened, I think, in the times when I feel like we've most needed that. I've most needed it. It were also the times when it can get really sticky and be like, but I don't want to do. And
Yeah, but this is so nice and squishy.
yeah, and then it's like, okay, when it's that hard to leave for like one day out of 7 each week, it's like it's probably the time to take a break. So so that's another part of it. I think time apart, really scheduling that in, and that's been quite a journey for us.
Absolutely.
In working with that, like how to communicate it, how to be with it. Like certainly when we first started, and generally I think I normally more land in the sort of needing a bit more time to myself, being a bit more introverted, and then you've had your own challenges with what that's all up with you.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that would be a fun topic for the future.
Maybe another podcast.
Maybe, if you like this one, maybe we'll make another.
Let us know. Just that thing of time off and time apart.
Yeah, really coming back to self. And as Matthew mentioned, that's been a whole journey for me, but one of the richest parts of that has been really rediscovering who I am and why I'm great on my own. I was traveling in India for a few months before Matthew showed up, and there was I was really tuning back into that of like, oh yeah, my life, my choice, what do I want right now? So yeah, being able to periodically come back to that has really been a gift, and one of the most important things I think that we do to make travelling together so joyful.
Yeah, absolutely. And it brings in another part which I think is essential, maybe the most important thing for travelling, is how do we communicate our own needs. So if I have that need coming up, like, I need to take a bit of space for myself, but also having that sensitivity of communication around it. So knowing if it's something that may be a sensitive area, not just being like, I'm going off like for a day now, enjoy yourself, deal with it. But it's like both those things. How do I take care of my own needs, but also acknowledge there's another person in the picture who might be affected by what I'm doing. So standing strong in my own, what I need to take care of myself, but really having a kind of open, porous compassion around this.
Yeah, kind communication.
Really working on that.
Yeah, like that being a practice, not that being a thing of like, okay, we've both read NVC, so this will be fine. But like really making that, like tuning in on the day, and like being really present and really showing up, like you said, in that really beautiful balance of what I want and what I need and what I'm asking you for, and also how can I support you and any emotional reaction you might be having. Which, and I think this is key, does not mean shelving my own emotions. Like I think generally making room for process, and like being aware that being on top of each other all day, most days, for extended periods of time, stuff comes up, especially like when one of our kind of aims, I think, in coming together is to really look at ourselves and to use this relationship that we've built as a tool to kind of understand ourselves better and really improve our lives really as much as we can. And so that like treading that balance of my stuff and your stuff, and how can we support each other, and how can we support each other to be individuals as well, like not only this thing that we're doing together, but our own individual expression.
I think that's been a really key part of traveling as well, is like that underlying kind of philosophy that we are here for each other's the blossoming of each other's individual selves and lives and expression in the world, as much as we're here to also have this magical journey together.
Woo!
And that shared thing and exploring the world together. I think when we remember and we base ourselves in the idea that that is at its best when we're also really encouraging and supporting each other towards, oh, you're another being, like just remembering that, both when you're in your joy and you're like flourishing and shining in the world, and also if you're having a struggle.
Making space for each other's stuff and making time, like setting time apart to just be with that and talk about it and process it together and supporting each other.
Yeah, process time is another thing, right? Like having that specific time to sit down, and we have our own methods of going through process if sticky stuff comes up,
which we will share at some point if that is of interest to you.
Video. But yeah, like making time for that. I mean, we try, sometimes we manage, sometimes we don't, but we try and set aside specifically once or twice a week a time, whether there's stuff there or not, to kind of do our, like, is there anything that needs sharing? But yeah, really like honouring and prioritising that. It's really important to nurture and tend to our connection.
Yeah, like anything, I think we as a society do sometimes tend to operate under the myth that good relationship just happily falls together and naturally just flourishes, and we don't, you know, and somehow working at it is like failing or something. I think I definitely have struggled under that illusion at times of like, oh, but if I have to put any effort into this, then it means there's something wrong. Whereas actually I feel of late I've grown to realise that actually the best relationships are the ones where we are showing up and we are putting our attention and our intention into them, and because that comes back as well, that effort that you've put into it in those ways, like that you really feel that investment.
Well, that's where the flow then comes from a lot of the time. I mean, much as we match up very well and we have a lot of natural flow together,
I think that's also important. I think that's also an important part of any relationship.
Yeah, you don't just want to bludgeon away with someone that you're not really not suited to.
I had to. Let's do this.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the path to spiritual enlightenment. But yeah, like that is definitely part of where flow comes from, right? Like when we've been in some quite sticky places, but then when we've sat down and done the structures that we do to share and support each other and feel heard and hear the other person, it's totally transformed like the dynamic that we've been in, and when we then had like the rest of that day or week or whatever, it's been this wonderful kind of flow together, and it only took like maybe half an hour or an hour of sitting down that was maybe quite hard and painful to do in the beginning.
It can be really rough. Yeah. I mean, and the thing is we really feel the cost of that as well, I think. Whenever we haven't found time to deal with something that's going on, and we just try and like crack on with our day, like it hangs over you, and ultimately, it's like putting off. We sometimes refer to it as like cleaning the house or something. Like if you put it off and put it off and put it off, it builds up and builds up, and it can actually really impact your living in the house. Whereas if you're kind of setting time aside all the time to take care of those things, it's not the sexiest metaphor, I grant you that, but it's like it's life changing. Yeah,
I mean, it is the house we live in many ways, this space at the moment. Our little travel pod.
Yeah, and I'd say that those processes, without going too much into them, they're kind of fairly even parts of like celebrating our wins and like all of the stuff that we're loving and like really making space for that, and also sitting with and working with the stuff that's not working and that needs more of our attention. Like I think both of those parts are really key.
Because we're always together, well, most of the time together, there can then be a tendency to come into these process spaces more and more. And if that starts to happen, it's like actually, having a focus of celebrating what's going really well and having specific time aside for like really connecting, whether that's sexually or just going out and having fun, being silly, staying up all night, mixing terrible DJ mixes together.
Yeah, look out for us on a dance floor near you. A bit of a natural advantage there, I think, in that we kind of have those we each have a tendency of one of those, which is slightly more prevalent in one of us. So I think you would perhaps agree with me that you're slightly more into the process side of things, and I'm perhaps slightly more into the celebration party side of things. But it's really, I mean, I think that's one of the key things about relationship, not just travel in relationship, but is like being able to shine spotlights on the parts of yourself that you're perhaps less familiar with, or less, like, paying less attention to, and to give them some room to breathe. Like, I think that's one of the most magical things about being together.
Like, we've had some really wonderful breakthroughs with that lately, I think, and really recognizing that, like, oh, like in you, your desire and natural tendency to celebrate and be in that shining positive space, just like, hey, like, life's this amazing thing, let's just go and enjoy it. That is not a battle against what can be my tendency to be like, where, like, what doesn't quite feel right on the surface, and how do we tend to that so that we make a more beautiful life. Actually, those things can support each other really well.
They need each other, I think.
They really need each other. So we can both hold, like, what is our natural strength in our collective thing, and at the same time learn from each other.
For sure, and I've really enjoyed getting to know the part of myself that really wants to do the work and is really up for the darker, tougher spaces. And that feels like individual growth. Like, that feels like a really tangible example of how us coming together as in a relationship helps us grow as individuals, which I think has been, like, super magic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Part of the key thing for us in any case, has been really nourishing our needs as individuals in order to make what feels like a much more empowered choice to be together.
Yeah, that's it. Nutshell. Well done.
Thank you.
Good work.
Synopsis. TLDR.
What's TLDR?
Too long didn't read.
Staying healthy.
God, yeah, that's a big. That's a great one. That's travel specific.
Eating really well.
My God,
as
yeah.
and where we can. Like, we partied as well, for sure, in our own way.
We have a quite specific method of partying.
We have a few. But yeah, so definitely we're not like monk-like, but
just making sure that, like, we're encouraging each other to make healthy choices. So we while we definitely have different stuff around food and how we fuel our bodies, we kind of share an ethos of, like, as many vegetables as possible, like
green
as
things.
much raw green stuff into the day as we can.
Yeah.
So there's definitely been times where, like, if one of us is in a place where they're not, like, able to go outside and, like, get, I don't know, a salad or a juice, then we kind of make sure that we're, like, bringing it home for them and making sure that they're getting that
staying
in.
topped up. That's really important. I think just staying resource, like, plugged in, whatever does that for you, you know, be it meditation or eating well, exercise, because traveling together can be quite an intense pressure cooker, which can be amazing because that can make for, like, really incredible times together and breakthroughs, but it means being a bit more on it, I think, than normal, because I find if I'm under-resourced, it just shows up so quickly in our dynamic. And it's good for our dynamic to be able to, like, take us in all the places that we're in, you know, but if I'm only showing up with 50% of myself every day because I'm, like, you know, on a sugar hangover or whatever, you know, then, or I haven't exercised for the whole week, or I've just been eating, like, pizza all week, then it's obviously going to affect our space together. So it's a real impetus for me and for both of us, I think, to be like, okay, what are the things I need to do without going too over the top to make sure that I'm showing up, like, energized and plugged in, so I'm at least starting from a place of, like, resource in myself to then meet you.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's that thing, the health, emotionally healthy and physically healthy, like, whatever your particular self-care is, and, like, whatever it is that you need to really be your whole self, because that's really what we're aiming for, isn't it? Is to be in relationship as two whole people.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, always, I'd say definitely trying to support each other, whether that means, like, I don't know, making some space so that you can meditate, or
encouraging those habits.
Bringing me green juices at home when I had a broken rib and, like, couldn't get outside. Like, I think, and also, I mean, this is a slightly separate point, but, like, there's a lot of encouraging that and finding ways to support each other, there's a lot of opportunity to display care as well in those things, which is really, really key. Like those little moments, those little acts where you like offer something and you give something.
Yeah.
I think they really fill us up too.
Yeah.
Speaking of making sure that we're both in regular contact with our loved ones back home, I think is pretty key.
Yeah, super important. It's so easy to let that go. I don't know why that is. But yeah, end up in our bubble.
Yeah.
And then, like WhatsApp voice notes are really useful. Because it's like we're in Thailand now, so we're 6 hours ahead of UK.
So phone calls are not always the easiest way to go.
To arrange, yeah, they can be great for sure. But yeah, like WhatsApp messages, these sort of like little radio blogs to friends can be so good. And like, oh yeah, we're not the only people. As much as we love each other, we can't and we don't want to be the whole universe.
We really do not want that.
So yeah, but making a little bit of effort to stay in touch with them.
It's huge. It's like it's one of the highest impact things that we do. I think it doesn't take a huge amount of time, but just really remembering that there are other relationships in our lives that we really, really, really care about, and that we also really want to put our energy into, that we really want to prioritize.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's kind of a sort of a strange cultural myth we have that like the love bubble, the love relationship is like the be all and end all.
Should be everything, all things. But that's a kind of weird and very modern idea, I think.
Yeah.
I've definitely had experiences where, like, yeah, maybe things have been a little bit sticky with us, and then I've had a phone call with a friend who I get something really deeply nourishing from, which is different to what I get with us. And it really fills me up, and it's like, and I feel this sort of relieving of tension in myself, and then when I come back to you I feel a lot more free and like, oh yeah, like I can enjoy you, the person you are, rather than coming in with these expectations of, okay, you need to be this for me, 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 like all the things. And if you're not, it's a problem. If I can get those needs met, and phone calls, a really good way to do it, or WhatsApp notes.
And enjoying each other for what we are, and enjoying our friends and families for what they are, and the people that we meet along the way, has been a big part of keeping us individuals and us relationships healthy.
Absolutely. That feels like kind of enough for now. Maybe there'll be a part 2 if we come up with more things.
Yeah, and also if you have stuff to share that you think we've missed, and that might help us out as we continue our voyage,
please share in the comments of wherever we put this.
Give us a shout.
Yeah, or if there's any other questions about anything we talked about travelling or anything, then we'd be really happy to address those.
Absolutely.
About more wisdom.
Yeah, our aim here is to start a conversation about relationship in general. If we can share that, you guys, can share what we've learned and what works and what doesn't, and just give options, things to try out. I think that could be a really beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So your input would be a real blessing.
There's a very cute baby.
Oh,
just over there.
There is, and a bunch of pigeons.
Many pigeons.
Many pigeons. So, I think that's us for now.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thank you so much. And if you want more, let us know, and we'll do more. I think we are now off to hang out with some hedgehogs.
It's time for hedgehogs. Say no more. Ciao from Chiang Mai.
So bye.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah.
Good work.
Yeah, that's it.